The Financial Development Report, it's very similar to the Global Competitiveness Report that the forum has published in the past. Similar to the Competitiveness Report, it has a ranking at its center, an index that looks at the development of financial systems within 52 different countries. A number of different aspects of the financial systems are assessed, looking at the institutional environment, the business environment, financial intermediaries within those countries, and then overall measures of things like financial depth and access.
When you say financial system, do you mean just capital markets, or do you measure other aspects as well?
Sure. The scope of the index is very broad, as we're trying not to be too prescriptive in those parts of the financial system we think are more important. So not only capital markets, things like bond markets and stock markets and foreign exchange, but also insurance, over-the-counter markets, private credit, those things are analyzed as well, as countries can then look at the different components of the index, benchmark themselves, and decide which things they think are important and should be improved.
And this is a very broad range of aspects that you're looking at. Can you describe some of the variables and the methodology that you used in this report?
Sure, that's a good question. So certainly we recognized it's a broad mandate, so wanted to build on the scholarship that's been done here previously. So we did an extensive survey of existing academic literature and thought. We were fortunate to have Nouriel Rabini from New York University leading some of the thought leadership behind the work and providing a lot of the leadership in the design of the index. We've spoken with a lot of academics from universities as well as multilateral institutions to get their input into the index, and also solicited the input of a number of different members of industry to see exactly what they think is important and made sure that they get their feedback in the process. So very much a multi-stakeholder approach as we went about designing the index. From there, we organized the indices, the variables for the index around three sort of broad areas. The first is factors, policies, and institutions. So looking at a lot of the underlying foundational supports for financial systems, things like capital account surplus, rule of law, human capital, risk of financial crises. Then we've looked at financial intermediaries, in which we look at different measures of the health of, say, the banking system, non-banks, which would include insurance companies and investment banks, and then the capital markets, such as bond markets and equity markets. And then we've looked at overall measures of financial system health, so things like financial depth, turnover, but also issues of access, which we think is a very important part of the index. As we focus on economic growth as the purpose for putting this index together, we get input from businesses as to how easily they think that they can access different forms of capital within their countries, such as private credit, venture capital, initial public offerings. And we think this is a very important voice, given the purpose of the report.
And who will this be used for? Is it policymakers or people from the private sector?
Certainly, to the extent that the report is focused on economic growth, we are targeting policymakers and the changes that they can make to improve their financial markets and ultimately drive economic growth within their countries. The report is also oriented towards financial intermediaries and end users of capital. To the extent that it can be an information resource for them, we've made clear what information relates to those different buckets. But also those areas are very important for countries as well, as they consider how to attract capital and how to better serve their businesses within their countries. So hopefully that will help promote change too.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.